Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University.
And
We
we're
got
in your
Killmonger.
living room. Hi.
That works too. I'm always scared of however this is going to open, but it's all good, man. So I am Professor Bill. Yes, the Snyder Cut version. And if you haven't Googled Killmonger, you should at the very least YouTube him
Yeah,
because
there you go. Because I want you to see my videos, not my photos. Yes.
oh my god, yeah, we'll see you on what's that one channel? The Fappening. We'll see you
Yep.
on the Fappening. Oh man, all the wrestlers have nude pictures out there, right?
Be right back.
He's gonna go delete his phone. Nice. Oh man. All right, my peeps. So we got a hell of an episode. I want to really quick, just simply because I started off, talking about really quickly. Fat Man on Batman, whatever the hell Kevin
Kevin
Smith is.
Smith.
Yep, whatever Kevin Smith is calling his podcast nowadays. He was talking about how he heard or he talked to some people who claim they have seen the Snyder Cut, and he himself has seen the Snyder Cut. Mind you, the Snyder Cut is not a finished film. It's not a partially finished film. It's nothing. The finished film is actually the cut that has been released by the DC Cinematic Universe. You know what I'm saying? The DCEU. The
That's very
Snyder,
catchy.
right? It does sound very catchy. Something else we're going to be talking about later. I know for a fact we're going to, because if you don't, I will. But the Snyder Cut right now is literally just something unscripted and maybe a couple of unused portions of film, that Joss Whedon decided not to use. It's not a lot. It's not a whole lot at all. They talk about, oh yeah, Darkseid is definitely in it. Yeah, but Steppenwolf is also in it too. That was in the original script that he was okay with. That he went and partially wrote for the love of God. It was supposed to be a Steppenwolf movie. He led up to it in the end of BVS, right? It
Hmm.
was freaking Steppenwolf. The idea is that in the end of the movie, we're supposed to have maybe communication or a conversation, almost like the end credits of Avengers, where it's like the Earth has heroes to go after them would be to court death, and then Thanos turns around and smiles. It would be more than that, I'm sure. Like Darkseid would probably talk, maybe, I don't know, who cares? But the idea is that they said that Darkseid was actually in it, but it wasn't like Darkseid was the actual main villain and he was punching Superman and Superman was punching him back. No, he's supposed to be the villain in Justice League 2, not the villain in Justice League 1, which we saw. So it's so like I love people. I love the idea of the cinematic genius behind what Zack Snyder has done. But I think at the end of the day, more people have to be honest with themselves that they're more Zack Snyder fans than they are DC Comics fans.
What
Because, huh?
what did he do to amass this fan base? Was it 300?
Well, yeah, there's 300 and all the other movies that he's done. Also, he's done a lot of, movies, and they've been really amazing movies. He is a cinematic genius.
Okay.
Like, I mean, you get that one-off of The Matrix from the Wachowskis. What else have they done lately, right? But when you look at somebody like Snyder, everything this guy does is movie magic. So he's got a huge base behind him. But when this guy goes and says, "Yeah, I would have Batman prison raped," like I'm sorry, don't tell me that you're a freaking Batman fan. When he says, I'm cool with you if you think that heroes, your heroes don't kill, but I'm way beyond that, man. You're in the past. Oh, but I still love you, but you're way in the past, man. I've moved on way beyond that. It's like, no, you're not a fan of these characters. You could say you are, but I know a liar when I see one. You know what I'm saying? And again, I could say 100 good things about Zack Snyder. If I say one bad thing, there's going to be people who are going to flip out on me. Feel free to flip out on me. Zack Snyder is not a DC Comics fan. He knows the heroes, but he's not interested in their actual legacy.
Which is his downfall. It sounds like he's the opposite of Benioff and Weiss, the Game of Thrones screenwriters, because they were getting praise for Game of Thrones in the beginning, but when the television show stopped following the books written by George Martin,
Yep.
that became a problem. And everything they do outside of Game of Thrones gets negative reception. But with Snyder, they love the stuff that he does until it becomes adapting a book, which is a comic book in this case.
Yeah, it's not wrong. In case anybody's watching this, this is Moss Man. I found a little 2.5 inch Moss Man figure from the He-Man universe, and he's just really awesome.
Mm.
So anyway, yeah,
The,
when
what
push comes, go ahead.
I was going to change the topic. You have
Oh,
anything to say?
I was just gonna look at it, like for when push comes to shove, Zack Snyder does beautiful movies. He's able to make great continuity within his movies, and his vision, for the most part, like he was he was tapped to do this incredible DC cinematic universe, and holy crap, the DCEU would have been something that wow. But when your average comic book fan looks at this and says, "No, this is garbage," the Snyder, purists will be like, but the movie's beautiful. The comic book fans are not saying the movie's not beautiful. One, they're saying they can't see it because it's too damn dark. But realistically, they're saying these are not my heroes.
Mm.
They're simply not. These are very bleak characters. It was nice that you made the Watchmen. That's cute. But when push comes to shove, not every superhero movie has to be the Watchmen, you know?
The Snyder Cut is more so 10 extra minutes, maybe 20 minutes of Snyder scenes that weren't included. And the fact that Darkseid is in it, I know that's a great moment when you see someone like, oh, that's an appearance of, oh, okay, that cool moment. Maybe it makes the fans think that it's special, or the people who get to see the Snyder Cut, which we established is just a few more extra minutes of scenes.
Yeah, actually, few other minutes
Mm.
because there were some scenes that were cut, not a lot, but there were a couple of scenes that were cut. But there were a couple of scenes that were added also. One of them was the very fun scene that was touted and lauded and loved by the fans, where the funny flash moment where he's running and Superman turns and like he's fighting and then his eyes kind of turn really quick and Flash's face is like uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm in trouble now. Like it was a cool moment. I laughed. I enjoyed that. To me, that was the most enjoyable scene. And go figure, that was not a Zack Snyder scene because he doesn't understand putting humor in a movie. Not really. Everything's got to be dark and prison rapey and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, you make beautiful movies, but you can't be the writer of your movies also when push comes to shove. You need to just go and make your own movies. Go and make 300 Part 3. I've been waiting for 300 Part 3 for the longest time. It was supposed to be a trilogy of films. Where's the third one? I don't care about the success of the second one. I want to see that final one where the Spartans really do come back and kick some serious butt. That's in history. Um, but yeah, I don't want to see this guy making any more superhero films, at least not in the DC universe. There's a reason why he will, for the most part, never be hired for the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU as it's called.
Is that what it's called? Oh, it's a
That
very
is what
catchy
it's
acronym.
very catchy, very catchy. Okay, go ahead.
Do you think the
Segue.
wait, but do you think the DCEU is broken though? I feel like Shazam and Aquaman were good
Okay.
movies
Yeah.
that elevated like the universe. Yes, they're not really connected to anything. I think Mara may have mentioned the events of Justice League when she was talking to
She
Aquaman.
did. She
That's,
did, and it was necessary, but
yeah. And in Shazam, Billy Batson's friend was talking about what's his name, Freddy?
yep.
That's pretty good for a non-DC fan. But Freddie was telling him about, superpowers and what about invisibility, and he mentioned Superman, and he's got all the memorabilia and stuff in his room. So it does feel like they're in the universe. They did the bare minimum. They did
Yeah.
enough. And
And in the end, there's the brightest version of that costume ever shown.
oh yeah,
Saying where he comes walking out, but you don't see the head because you can't see who's actually in it.
that
But
stinks that they couldn't come to some sort of agreement. It's Henry Cavill. It's Superman. We love him as Superman. Just get the paperwork done.
I hear you. At the same time, would you want your kids to watch the, BVS, Man of Steel, and stuff like that? Like, I have no interest in letting my kids ever watch that. All that merch that was done. Like, listen, again, if you're a, release the Snyder Cut fan, that's cool. I would also like to see the Snyder Cut. I would love to see his version of what's happened. I would love it if he could just finance it himself and
Mhm.
get the permission for DC, from DC to do that. Because yes, I would love to see what his vision was. He's got an amazing vision. Very few people can even come close to what he produces. But here's the part where, again, 100 nice things about the guy, and one bad thing. You're evil. Okay, I'll be your evil guy. That's fine. I'll be the guy who, you catch, you walk in to, say hi to your mom and you see sleeping with your mom. I'm happy to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? I really don't care. I'll be the freaking criminal here. I'll be the one you hate. But when push comes to shove, like, this was the merchandise sales alone show kids were not only were kids not, getting it, nobody was going back to see the movie a second time. There's going to be somebody, I went back and I saw the movie 5 times. Cool. There's going to be people saying 5 times, you're a lightweight. It shows the desire to see the movie was high because it broke box office openings like Marvel wasn't able to do at the time. And, people for that first week and that opening weekend especially, it made buku dineros. People like, I've got to see Batman versus Superman. But the second week broke another box office record of nobody going back to see the movie. The rewatchability of that by most comic book fans and whomever, your casual fan, anybody other than the Snyder purists, the desire simply was not there. We could go full stop, but no, I can beleaguer the point. I can simply point out the merchandise sales. Who in their right mind is going to buy BVS socks or underwear for their toddlers? Because I saw the clothes being on sale in Walmart. I saw them being on sale in Target. I saw them being on sale in, wherever else, you know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you right now, while the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who didn't even have a movie at the time, okay, the Turtles in Time or whatever, now is the video game, whatever that one that they did, the Secret of the Use, I don't know, whatever freaking the most recent movie was, Secret of the Use was the part 2 for back in the 80s or 90s. Anyway, yeah, the cartoon version, the 1980s cartoon version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle socks were selling. The Paw Patrol socks were selling. You know what I'm saying? The freaking Marvel Captain American Iron Man socks were selling. I bought those. But the Minecraft and the Super Mario Brothers socks were selling.
Did you call them the Mario Brothers?
The Mario Brothers.
All right, much better.
Mario, whatever. Anyway, oh geez, unbelievable. Hey, Incredible Hulk 180 or 181. But
181.
That's it there. See? You see? He's a purist. What do you call it? But those BVS socks were not selling. They simply didn't sell. The toys didn't sell. The clothing line, for the most part, it simply didn't sell. You can look back because those are public record. You can look back and see they simply didn't sell. The freaking DVDs. Please find me a Marvel. Even if you hate Captain Marvel, all right. Even if you hate the Captain Marvel movie and Brie Larson, I hate her. Can you find that movie on sale for $5 in the Walmart, $5 bin? You can't. But you know what you can find there? Every single one of the DCEU movies, except for Aquaman and Shazam.
You sound like a Star Wars fan, but yeah, I'm with you. You can't argue the numbers.
Yeah.
You'll also find The Last Jedi in that bin. And what was episode 9 called?
Will you find The Last Jedi in there? I've never seen it in that bin. I've still always seen it on set. Oh, really? Okay, cool. Hey, look, you can't argue with sales. That's one thing you simply can't argue with. You can look at a larger history, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the actual sales and whatnot, it's really hard to argue with those. Hey, I think you were going to make a mention that we're on episode 14. We have lasted longer than most comic books.
Get canceled at issue number 12.
That's right.
You know what needs to get canceled? The Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters.
Oh, sorry. Is there an acronym for that? Not an acronym, an initialization, for that?
Yeah, I'm not calling it the spunk. I'm gonna continue with my what do I call it? Sonyverse, the Venom,
the Spideyverse, Sonyverse, the Spideyverse, the Spider-Verse, the Sonyverse, or the Venomverse. Yeah, those.
Here we go. Do they even have a distinct number, like an Earth 1959?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I never actually bothered to look that up.
Because they don't actually have comic books, am I right? Like if I went on the Marvel database, that website, they usually let you know what universe. Like Clarice Ferguson, she's from the Age of Apocalypse universe, which is number what? Huh? I was hoping you would know.
I don't remember. I don't remember what the Age of Apocalypse continuity Earth
I just know 616.
Nomenclature is.
I know Ultimate is 1610,
Yep.
and MCU is Earth
199999.
1959s.
Yep, 5 9s, and starts off with a 1. So 1 and 5 9s.
That's what we're gonna call it. 1 and 5 9s. Earth 1 and 5 9s.
Is that what we're going to call it?
That's what I'll call it. But I'm
It's
not
the
calling
MCU
Spunk.
verse.
I'm not.
The
I'm not gonna
MCU.
call.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but here's the thing with
So what does that mean? What does the spunk mean?
yeah, right. Isn't that like a term? You know?
Oh, spunk?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, when you're finished and you roll over and there's that stain, that's the spunk.
There you go. I didn't think we could put that in a PG way, but you got away with your words. That's right. Spunk. That's what that is. Back to the MCU though. Loki the TV show, the series that we got where he picks up the Tesseract and he goes away. That's gonna be in another branched reality, as the
Yes.
Ancient One called it.
Yes.
Is another branched reality also another universe? Because to me
Yes.
it is.
Yes, it's another timeline. It's another everything.
Okay, cool. Because they enter the quantum realm and they return in another timeline. By returning in another timeline, it is another universe that has just been created where the events are going to be, slightly the same, but different enough because of what we saw with Loki. Meaning that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now an MCM. Do we start calling it's
Not
a
really.
multiverse now?
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're doing there.
And
Which is
Sony's Spunk is part of that multiverse. If they want to, like if something happens in the Doctor Strange film that makes Spider-Man go over there, or maybe they have their own Spider-Man who's played by Tom Holland, and it can be Tom Holland, and I'm not going to say, wait a minute, they're mixing universes. I'll be able to distinguish the difference. Hopefully others will also. I'm just happy that Sony, if we can look at a positive of this, they're no longer pretending that they're part of the same universe.
actually they almost kind of are, because look at how close. What does the spunk stand for again?
The Sony Pictures universe
Yep.
of Marvel characters.
Yep. So SPU.
SPU.
Yeah, SPU too. SPU MC MUC. Yeah, whatever it is. Spummock. Basically, it sounds too much like the MCU. And mind you, that's the longer version, and they only changed that. I think because when people were calling out that it sounds too much, it was a smaller version. It was supposed to be like the Spimuck, whatever. Anyway, they literally like made it way too small, where it's like it sounds too much like the MCU. They use the exact same letters, but also threw in the letter S. So you're trying so hard to blend in, like you much to validate everything that you said about, oh, look, they had to throw in the Spider-Man wanted picture there to make it look like it's in the same universe. They have to keep doing these things. Yes, agreed. They keep on doing these to try and trick viewers into saying, look, Venom Part 2, that's in the MCU. I'm saying.
That's what the trailers were trying to make you think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Morbius
100%.
too. So
well, the Morbius, but Venom 2, all these movies, they want them they want people to be confused. That's why they purposely made the trailer, the opening to, they had their own opening at first, and then Marvel did theirs, and then Sony coincidentally changed theirs to look like the Marvel one.
Did they?
Yes.
What happened in the opening of the trailer?
Oh, no, you know how they'll do like dun, 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 like they'll have the characters going and whatnot.
I got it. Yeah.
They both had their own version, and they looked similar enough, in my opinion. But once
it says Marvel Entertainment rather than Marvel Studios.
Yes. But then, as soon as Marvel changed theirs, Sony decided, you know what? Let's make ours look more like that, because the MCU is getting really, really popular. At first, they didn't care. They're like, they're never going to be as popular as Spider-Man. That's Avi Arad talking. So instead, they've got they decided now they start making it trying to look like that. And it's like, oh, you sick, sorry saps you. There's a triple S for you. Yeah. And they're like, dude, the what is it called? Just whatever, the hobnobbing, it's ridiculous. Go on.
But this isn't a trailer, this isn't a film, this is just like a press release or a statement that says we're calling our universe this. I feel like that's the first time, that's the first step. And it came like months after the trailer, but that is the first step in admitting that they're a different universe.
I wonder if Marvel didn't push for that.
You know, Marvel wants that. Remember that Kevin Feige
Disney, yeah.
statement where he
Yes.
announces the difference between the two universes? His exact quote was, Spider-Man's a powerful icon. He also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So as the Sony develops their own SpiderVerse, you never know what surprises the future might hold. So in his statement where he's announcing we've come and made an agreement, he also slips in that they've got their own Spideyverse, where he called it the Spideyverse. I guess they're not calling it that anymore.
And you know how they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words?
Yeah.
Just that one thing where Feige and what's her
Amy
name?
Pascal.
Amy Pascal. Yeah, you know the thing.
They won't
where,
be in the same universe, but they'll be adjacent to each other.
no. The one even before that where
Whoa.
she's asked, "Hey, so is Venom actually going to be in the Marvel universe?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, he's going to be in the same universe and blah blah blah." And Kevin Feige just had that look like, bitch,
Uh-huh.
what? He's like, what? Like he didn't say anything, but the look on his face was like, oh my God.
Do I gotta throw a sandwich?
Right. I'm gonna, I saved that sandwich, that half a sandwich that you threw at me all those years ago. I still have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow. That was worth a million freaking baloney words that they're gonna try and say to each other. His look alone was proof.
Mm.
And he didn't even have that much power at the time. I think that Bob Iger was actually still in charge of a lot over there, and Jeff Loeb and the power is still divided a lot at the time that came out.
You
You know
think
what I'm saying?
Ike Perlmutter, that thing was all
Perlmutter.
resolved in 2015, and if they're doing promotion for Homecoming, a film that came out in 2017, I think
Okay,
it
done.
might have been.
But the Jeff Loeb thing was still like the Jeff Loeb thing was still a big deal at the time. Still, so yeah, they gave him the immunity, whatever, but they didn't make him in charge of everything. They just made him in charge of the MCU. No stopgap. Nobody's allowed to come in and say, "Hey, actually, what I want you to do, Feige." Like
Mm.
nobody could do that anymore. Now Feige's in charge of everything. Not Marvel, but in general Marvel.
It doesn't feel like he's had any influence on comic books, which is a good thing also, right?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I don't want him to have an influence on the comic books like that. I don't need the comic books to be representing the movies. I think that in some ways they should, but not necessarily.
Here's the
Not,
ways
not to that degree.
here's the ways that I feel like it is influencing the comic books. Blade, Black Widow, Moon Knight, all three of these characters are, they're relevant. Or She-Hulk also, they're relevant in the future of the MCU. They also happen to be in pages in this run of Jason Aaron's Avengers. And I feel like that book, the Avengers book, is the most MCU friendly. If you're a new fan and you want to read a comic book and all you know is the films, they're all $4. I'm going to pick up the one called Avengers because that's the biggest franchise. And I feel like he's easing those fans into it slowly. But other than that comic, I don't feel like the X-Men stuff matters to the MCU or the direction of Iron Man matters to the MCU either. Which Iron Man, someone was asking us to talk about this in Discord. Dan Slott is no longer going to be writing the Iron Man series after Iron Man 2020. It was the climactic finale, and I kind of got the feeling that it was over. But 19 issues in, 19 issues down. Who takes over after this?
You know what I said.
You said Jim Zub, and I'm also gonna second Jim Zub. I think Jim Zub is like the guy who was trained to be the new guy who's gonna write the book. He was kind of co-writing it with Dan Slott, so I thought there would be like
No, he really wasn't.
He wasn't co-writing it.
I talked to him. He was credited as a co-writer. He was supposed to be up until December of last year. 2099. Yeah, 2099, baby. No, 2019. What do you call it? Because Dan Slott is notorious right now for being really slow to put out the comic books and not meeting deadlines. And Iron Man 2020 was supposed to come out in June of 2020. So since Marvel was pretty sure that he wasn't going to be able to keep up, they're like, hey, Zub, do you mind jumping in on that? Zub said that it actually started to get really tedious. He's like, listen, I've got my own books that I'm writing right now, and including a bunch of non-Marvel books like IDW stuff. So I can't be spending all my time. He didn't want to use the word babysitting, but I forget which word he used, but it's basically a substitute for babysitting. So Zub didn't say babysitting. Okay, I'm saying babysitting. He's just like, yeah, no, my priorities are with my stuff, but I'll see what I can do. So he would call up,
Christos Gage.
well, eventually Christos Gage is who took over because Zub was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like it's too much work. So because yeah, he would call up Dan Slott and be like, "Hey, so what's going on?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, in Fantastic Four, man, check this out. You're gonna love what I'm doing." And he would have to cut him off after a little while and be like, "Dude, I hear you, but I don't care about Fantastic Four. I'm here about the Tony Stark Iron Man book. Like, how are you on this so far? Do you need any help in getting this stuff out?" You know what I'm saying? And
It's funny,
yeah,
I
that's
enjoy his
fun.
Fantastic Four and I don't enjoy his Iron Man, especially when Iron Man turns out not to have been Iron Man the whole time. It was an artificial intelligence. So those 19 issues that you have in your bookshelf right now were not even Tony Stark.
Way to ruin my childhood, man. my last year childhood, mind you, but my inner child, I guess. But anyway, no, it's funny. Yeah, no, I hear you, but I don't know. When push comes to shove, Dan Slott is going to be leaving. I feel like Jim Zub is going to be the best person to take over. I don't even know if he's interested in doing the character, but I mean, Slott is a team character. He's the guy who takes teams, teams like the Champions or the Avengers or whatever, and he just puts this team together. And he's like, "Yeah, look at this! Look at all these guys coming together." And I
So
feel so bad for all of his artists because they don't get paid more for drawing more characters. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that writers have. George Perez was probably the biggest advocate against. He's like, I don't know how I got tricked into doing like what do you call it? Infinity Gauntlet, but I hated it. And that's the reason why I said that Ron Lim should have done it from the beginning. Instead, I got him to do it from partial issue 4 and on. And he did it solo for issue 5 and 6 for the original Infinity Gauntlet comic book. But for the love of God, man, I hate doing team books. I don't get paid more for drawing all these characters, So yeah, he hates it, hated it.
you
But
would only say that if you were an artist who cares. You want to get these guys right.
yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Hmm.
There are people who will argue that, and I'm partially one of them, who will argue that Steve Ditko is not the greatest artist that there is. Agreed. He's 100% not the greatest artist out there. He's simply not. But he does have amazing concepts, and he doesn't mind taking his time doing what he's doing. When you think about the idea that he made the Spider-Man costume, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have both gone on the record saying the only thing that Steve Ditko did differently than what Kirby or anybody else, because I think it was like 5 or 6 people who Stan Lee brought the character to for the character design before he finally went to Ditko. He was just like, yeah, none of these guys are really getting it. And he went to Ditko, and Ditko pretty much just added the webs. Kirby and Stan Lee have both said the same thing. He pretty much just added webs to the costume. But it's the idea that he was willing, even though it was only for 18 issues, everybody has consistently done those webs.
18 pages or 18
time.
issues?
18 issues. Sorry. Did I say pages? My bad.
No, I misinterpreted. I thought you meant to say, you said 18 issues. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he only did it for like 18 issues. So I forget exactly how long his run was. I think it was only 18 issues. But anyway, the idea is that people still use that design to this day, except for the small times when they do the black costume,
It's more of a headache to draw webs every single
definitely
place.
is. But look at him, and look at the work that he did on Doctor Strange. Look at the complications of his costume. Just the amulet alone, the Eye of Agamotto. How hard it is to sit there and do all those little lines for this stupid little tiny freaking thing that most people aren't even paying attention to. Turns out we were paying attention to it a lot. And all the crazy psychedelic type designs that he did in the past. You look at the costume with the creeper and how the hair, on it is, all the attention to detail. You look at somebody like Hawk and Dove. This is DC Comics, and I know you're not a huge fan, but take a look at the characters Hawk and Dove in the comics as Steve Ditko originally drew them, for only 1 issue, mind you, but maybe it was 5. But anyway, even though they didn't like his politics in it, and he was very heavily political, It's the idea that when you look at Hawk and all the solid lines and sharp lines of this very angry character, and then the soft and fluidic curving lines of Dove, who is a very bending and yielding character, like the attention to detail this guy had was amazing. So even if he wasn't the greatest artist there was, he actually cared about what he was drawing, depending on how much he was getting paid. He was an objectionist. And if he thought, I'm worth more than this, are you going to pay me more than this? They'd be like, no. He'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to give you this much of my skill. If you're paying me like 75% of what I'm asking for, I'm going to give you 75% of my artistic skill. And that's how he would do it, which is fine.
Time is money. Yeah.
Time is money. You're right. So yeah, he would do that. But at the same time, that's also my argument against John Romita Jr. that he's just like, I just don't care. I'm just going to draw whatever. Shoot, how did I get pulled off talking about Ditko? Oh, the idea that
Spider-Man.
that people care about the way they're doing. With Zub, I believe that Zub cares, and he's going to make it a team book. Now, does that mean a whole bunch of other people are going to be pulled in? Maybe he's just going to use characters who have always been there. Zub is really good at creating. He's very good at creating brand new characters, and I believe that he will introduce new characters, which I'm 100% behind. But also, there's all these characters that are already in his life, who, mind you, Dan Slott has actually done a good job of showing. But anybody who thinks that Iron Man is a solo book, when you see all of the cast of characters in there, look at back in the day when he was just a solo character. And for the most part, he wasn't, but he was boring. He was boring as hell. They had to introduce Happy Hogan and Pepper Potts just to have something else to do besides Iron Man talking to himself about, tiny transistors and transistor-powered strength and goofy dialogue like that. You actually had a story once Stan Lee said, I'm going to introduce a bunch of new characters here, and the more characters that you introduce in his life, the better the book has been. And I don't believe that anybody right now does better team books than Zub. Mind you, this is a guy who I'm actually partially angry at for not making the time for me to interview him and have a good conversation with him. He's made time for me in private, which is awesome. But like, I'd actually like to be able to share a lot of this stuff with you guys instead of the hearsay, well, he told me. I actually like him to tell you guys directly. So yeah, I'm a little bothered that the guy doesn't make some time, but whatever, I get it.
Try Chip Zdarsky. He did an interview with Gem Mint.
I was there live for that. And with all due respect, it would have been nice if Gem Mint actually knew who Chip Zdarsky was before the conversation. Things that look, Gem Mint. Look, Gem Mint is an awesome guy, and he's really good at what he does. He's really good at the idea of flipping books and talking about, comic book speculation. I hope he's not upset. If he hears this, I hope he's not pissed off at me for saying he's not very good when it comes to the stories. I don't think that's an insult to say that. He's way better than I will probably ever be when it comes to speculation and flipping books. That's not my forte. I'll talk about it. But there are people who are going to correct me all the time and say, oh, you were wrong about something. And they're right. I was wrong because that's not what I do. At the end, we have to all acknowledge our weaknesses. The idea that he didn't know hardly anything about Chip Zdarsky when he's doing, a 15, 20-minute interview. I was really sad that he didn't realize that's not his real name. Like, Chip Zdarsky even made a joke. He's like, yeah, even Matt Fraction. I mean, whose name is Fraction? I wonder if he even got the irony of that comment. Like, that was, the sarcasm of it at the very least. Like, that was a good moment, and you could see the joke going right over top of Mint's head. Like, dude, do a little research on a guy before you do an interview. But I think this is his first interview.
He did Humberto Ramos a week earlier.
Oh, and that Ramos, was with Comic Tom, right?
Yeah, and he made a joke also about they needed someone who could draw Strange Academy. So that's why instead of Scotty Young, it's me. And yeah, that joke went over their heads also. Okay, but let me ask you this question.
I didn't even watch that. But yeah, what I will say is really quick. The idea is, like, to do a good interview, I've learned the hard way. Shut your goddamn mouth. Shut your goddamn mouth. Ask a question and then you shut up until there's about a 5-second count of silence. Because you can always edit that out later, saying, or it's not that big of a deal. Wait, because maybe they're going to add something to what they're saying. And don't you ever cut off the person you're interviewing. You never do that because you throw them completely off, and you also make them think like you're not even letting me get a thought completely out. So that's the idea. Learn how to shut your goddamn mouth. I had to learn how to shut my goddamn mouth. And yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But I am glad he did get that interview. He kept it short. That's something I've never learned how to do, is keep an interview short. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
I think we're getting good at respecting time constraints. Like, remember our first episodes, which were 2 hours plus, and
oh yeah,
now for the most part, we're like 60 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on if we got more to say. With interviews, though, there's no ESPN for comic book interviews, which is
that's right.
kind of a problem. Yeah, who is the best interviewer amongst the YouTube community?
Oh, that's hard to say because unfortunately, it's just the big guys who are going to get them. You're always going to see. I don't know if Rob does interviews or not, but I know that
Benny,
Benny does a bunch of the interviews from a fellow
comics.
Jersey, and I can never remember his name. Comic Pop. There you
Yeah.
go. Comics Pop, whatever. He's a fellow. He's from Leonardo, though. It's not really Jersey. It's Jersey on the map.
Oh my
It's not
God.
really Jersey, though.
Like, everyone from the other 49 states is like, what's wrong with this guy?
That's fine because they're not from Jersey either if they're from the other 49 states. So it's cool. But at the end
So
of the day, I also think that Benny would understand that joke and say he's actually right. Anyway, we have our own culture in Jersey. What do you call it? He does a bunch of interviews. I don't think he does great interviews, though. He gets the good interviews. He gets to interview Bendis and Snyder and whoever the hell else he wants to interview because he's a huge channel. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he gives good interviews. He talks about things, whatever. Hey,
okay,
here's one thing.
I asked who does
I
good
don't
interviews.
fanboy. I don't,
All
or what do you call it? I fanboy when I'm talking
right.
to these guys. So that's one of the mistakes that I make. I do that stupid laugh. I'm like, like I do a stupid, because these are my heroes. Say
Yeah.
these are the guys who are like, oh my God, like you're writing the stories that I fawn over. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I fanboy. I can be critical with myself. But like Benny, he makes the same mistake of just interrupting somebody all the time. It's like, Benny, shut your goddamn mouth, dude. The guy was talking. What are you going to interrupt him with that is worthwhile from what he was already saying? At the end of the day, nobody wants to hear from you, dude. Shut up. Let him finish what he's saying. My God, man. But that's me.
No, that's definitely a negative trait of interviewing. So
Yeah.
everyone who's listening, remember that. We
Hey.
do need some sort of like hub that you go to get your pod, because even pro wrestling has the Colt Cabana podcast. Maybe now it's Steve Austin and Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
Huh?
and the Bruce Pritchard. No, I like the idea that there's a lot of different ones because if you just have one person interviewing, that would suck.
But that
You know,
makes it that's the magazine. There's a lot of magazines, but there's one time. There's a lot of award shows, but there's one Academy Awards.
yeah. So you're a union buster, and I'm more about, breaking up the monopolies.
I don't even know what that means.
What it
I'm a
means is
union buster.
if you a union buster, like this is the guy who's just like, no, we are monopoly, we are the ones in charge. How dare you try to compete with us? Saying, no, I don't want that. I want there to be a bunch of different voices because you know what? If 10 guys have an interview or give an interview for or get an interview from, like, let's say Chip Zdarsky, that's 10 different interviews. But if the same guy interviews Chip Zdarsky 10 times, how is one different than the other? Like what? You thought of something new to ask that you forgot to ask before?
I just
It's the
mean
same
high
damn
profile,
interview.
man. I'm just mean like, there's one Saturday Night Live, and then there's the other late night shows. Actually, late night talk shows, like the weekday ones with
Mhm.
Jimmy and Conan and all of them. We have like options. We've got like 7 or 8. It's the best it's ever been.
We
I know
don't really have options if you think about it. I'm sorry. I'm going to argue that they're not really options because these
huh?
are all guys who argue for the same thing. These are left leaning. And by left leaning, I actually mean centrist democratic leaning. These are guys who are going to ask certain
Yeah.
questions and they're not going to ask other
So
questions.
so I'm talking about the jokes, the monologues. They have
Mm,
different styles, different jokes. They're
that's
not
cool. But
always
we
joking
were talking
about the
about the
same.
interviews.
No, okay. So in the case of interviews, yeah, they're all pro their politician.
Yeah. They're going to be the ones who are, fawning over the chocolate in freaking Nancy Pelosi's damn refrigerator. One of her two $24,000 refrigerators.
Mhm.
My God, man. Like, that's disgusting. $12 a pop ice creams that are hand delivered to her, personally delivered to her. and then even then, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, whatever they are from The View, defending her, but she gets them from a local business. We like local businesses, don't we? Please define local business. Who deals with exotic ice creams? Please, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's disgusting. It's all the people pining for each other. It's just an echo chamber. You know what I'm saying? So
let's talk about the chocolate in our comic book movie characters and how Magneto, the skin color, the Magneto thing. This was a hot topic, maybe even a year ago, of how he doesn't necessarily need to be a white guy, a Jewish guy. He can be changed for the movies. He could be from another, not Holocaust, but another genocide. We could use him from another place because he's really old and all these reasons. Listen.
First, let's give a shout out to the guys in Discord who contribute to this podcast more than pretty much anybody else. That's not to say nobody else contributes to the podcast. They do. I love getting questions in, and I love trying to answer those, questions here in the podcast. But like the guys in the Discord, I think are the most active in talking about it, and I love that. I'll try to remember to actually post the link to the Discord in the main podcast, area so that people can actually see that. Because otherwise just come to the Comic Book University channel, and I think every single one of my videos right now has the link to the Discord in it. So by all means, jump in, have a conversation, be polite, don't be a dick. That's the rules. Don't be a dick.
And we actually get in voice chat in this Discord server. That's not something a lot of people can say. A lot of it is just chit-chatting back and forth, texting.
Is it really?
A whole lot of Discords do just chatting on text.
Yeah, this is the first Discord I've ever been in, is my own. But so I guess I'm just doing it all wrong, but I'm okay with it. I love the idea of actually getting the free flow of ideas and people just talking about whatever.
There's a lot of talking over each other, but if you can get over that, yeah. So Black Magneto, Black anybody, Black Iron Man, or someone who was originally one color and changing him. I'm against that 100%. I know what the message is. I know it's a pro-diversity message. I get it. However, that's a compromise. Give me the Black characters movie. Like, give me a Falcon film, or give me a Jon Stewart film. You know what I mean? Don't give me we're coloring this guy a different color than he originally was. I can't take pride in that. I want to see what I saw in the comic books on the movies. For a minor character like that cop who tells Spider-Man in his original, like for those characters you're only gonna see once, go ahead, go make them diverse because you want diversity in your film. But for those non-speaking roles or those really quick ones, but if you're actually a hero and you're gonna be in these films to come, if you're a major player, I need you to be accurate to what you were. That goes for aliens, that goes for ducks, that goes for all of it. If you were this, you got to be this in my movie. Don't change it for the sake of diversity, because that is a compromise, and that's not something I can take pride in. I'll actually be upset. I'll be like, nah, I needed a Black guy, or I needed a Asian guy to be my Shang-Chi. I needed, you know what I mean? I know they're not doing a non-Asian for Shang-Chi. Usually in most cases, it's taking a white guy and then reskinning him something else. Diversity. That man was white in the comic books. Give me white version of him. They do it for aliens a lot, though. Like Mantis, like Drax. Drax is Filipino, right? That's what Dave Bautista is.
Is he?
From Washington, D.C., but I'm pretty sure he's Filipino guy.
Filipino? I don't know. A name like Bautista? That sounds like a Spanish name to me.
Okay, I may be wrong. But like Gamora, Zoe Saldana.
There are a lot of Spanish names in the Philippines. But anyway, yeah.
When it comes to an alien or someone who you can change the skin color of with a little bit of paint, they're going to go diverse because...
What do you mean with Mantis, though?
Mantis is... Where's she from? She Asian, I think, or German? What is Mantis? Palm Kleamantov. Oh. That woman is... all I'm saying is diverse, and when I say diverse, I mean not white. I mean not white.
In the comic book, she's actually Vietnamese.
You can have a Vietnamese Mantis? I thought she was an alien. Was she actually a human being?
Yeah, she's actually a human.
Oh, shit. Learn something new every day.
No worries. Yeah, she's like part Coatl, and then part Vietnamese. Yeah.
So she's not Ego's creation. Got it.
Yeah. That was completely different. And Ego's not a an elder of the or a celestial. He was, at best, you could say he's an elder of the universe, but barely. Like an honorary elder of the universe. He's just an intelligent planet that was actually created by scientists. Yeah, I know.
Man. Wait. How could he be created by scientists if Silver Surfer Black went back in time and he was there?
Retcons.
Okay.
Because you got to follow the movies, of course. And of course, people just not paying attention to continuity.
We need Jim Shooter in here.
That's what I say all the time. Yeah. So I can agree with you because I have heard people, and big shout to Sterling. I understand his point that you could technically say, hey, since Magneto is too old, he'd have to be way too old to be, a Holocaust survivor. Like, nowadays, come on. You could argue that, hey, make him, a Tutsi, or heck, make him a Bosnian. You know what I'm saying? There was a Holocaust there also, a genocide there also in Serbia. You know what I'm saying? They were, make them from, Kosovo or something like that. Sure. You could do stuff like that, but no, I say keep him Jewish, keep him a Holocaust survivor. If they're going to be bringing in mutants from another universe, bring them in from a universe where, hey, they're like two options. Bring them from a universe that is actually like 30 years in the past to our current universe, or bring them in and say, yeah, mutants don't age quite as fast as regular humans because, mutants, they're superior. Hey. So there's plenty of options to do, but Magneto should stay a Jewish Holocaust survivor who watched his parents get taken away from him and knows that they were murdered in the concentration camps. 100%. That drives his character way too importantly. And just substituting any old Holocaust with that, to me, is
any
just
old
not
genocide.
the same. Yeah, it's just not the same.
Yeah. Good to see that we agree on that, but it's worth talking about. Now that there's going to be new comic books coming out May 28th from Marvel, I got an issue with the number of comics that they're distributing. There's going to be like 6 comics instead of their usual 78 comics a week that they put out. They're going to limit it to a few. And I feel like if you're going to get these comic book shops buying your comics again, ordering your comics, make it worth their while. Give them more books. I don't believe in a slow rollout. It doesn't help out comic book stores or the customers, really. Are we ready to go back or are we not ready to go back? A slow rollout doesn't really help the comic book stores because they're open. They're hiring their employees if they have employees. They're paying rent. They're paying the light bill. They're paying all that, but they've got less things to sell. Go ahead.
I am going to disagree with you on this. I don't know if it's just because I'm so ridiculous. I'm like more busy now that we're all home and in quarantine. I'm more busy now than I've been for the past 4 years. But I'm not looking forward to comic books coming back. I'm not excited for comic books to come back right now. I've been gone from them for so long. I feel like like a lot of people I'm addicted to sugar. No problem. Stop eating sugar. Have somebody who will actually punch you if you even look at a candy bar. You know what I'm saying? And then you will, stay away from sugar for a little while, whatever. If you stay away from sugar for like 3 days to a week, God forbid, 2 full weeks, if you can stay away from sugar for 2 full weeks, you're not interested in sugar. If you go out and you get a candy bar, nice, look at that candy bar, my favorite candy bar, you'll taste the sugar, you'll get a headache from it. You know what I'm saying? For me, I've been away from comic books for so long right now that I'm just like, if they throw 1,000 comic books at me, I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm just going to be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just skip this week. I'm not joking when I say that. Like, all my favorite reviews and whatnot. Nope.
You're going to skip.
Forget about it.
You're going to skip the week or you're going to skip out on comics. What's realistically going to happen? You're going to see 20 comics that Marvel's putting out, and you're going to say, not even going to go. If you were going to go, you were going to get those ones you only care about.
But I care about all of them. I just look at it as, dude, I'd be so overwhelmed seeing them. It's like, and plus people just don't have that kind of money anymore. Like, in a state, hey, we're good here in the States. I don't know if you're getting any money, but I'm not even a full citizen. I'm just a landed permanent resident. And I got checks coming in from the government. Like, they're taking care of me, dude, big time. I don't want to go into the numbers. I don't want to piss some people off, but dude, like, we're getting taken care of here. So it's not even a money situation at all. It's literally just, I would go to the comic book store and be like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I might make some poor decisions, but like, yeah, I'll grab Immortal Hulk if that's up, and Venom and Thor, I guess. But like, I'll just skip on this one. They'll be like, oh no, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe I might get buyer's remorse on some, and then oops, I forgot to, or I didn't take advantage of that deal, whatever. It would just be too much. So having only 6, I think, is a really good idea. Plus, you're talking about more comic books that the comic book store owners have to buy, which is more overhead because every time that a comic book retailer buys a comic book or a statue or anything, that's an expense until it
Mhm.
gets sold. If
Well, if
it's
I'm a
sitting on their shelves and on the inventory, that's an expense until it gets sold.
Yeah, so it's up to the comic book retailer to only order what he knows he's going to sell, and it's easier to do that when you've got more options.
It's a solid argument. It's a sound. I'm going to say it's a sound argument. I I just no. I think that if you just simply put out the ones that listen, this is a really good opportunity for Marvel to really rein itself in. You know what I'm saying? Marvel has way too many books that just we just made the joke earlier on about, hey, we passed 12 issues. It's better than most comic books do,
Uh,
you know?
and with Marvel having so many books, they're showing you right now which ones they truly care about. If you were supposed to come out and they're not showing your comic book out of one of those 6, here's what they think about you.
Possibly.
What else
Possibly.
could that mean?
Just no, we've got these ones scheduled to come out next week.
So why weren't they scheduled to come out this week, and why are they scheduled to come out next week? Because they're
I
not
don't
as
know.
important, is how I interpret it. If you choose to interpret it the wrong way, that's all on you.
The wrong way. I love your use of the language. No, like at the end of the day, if you have, like, let's say if you put out chocolate cake in the first week, talking about sugar now, and then the second week you put out, freaking vitamin bars, so people can be like, what the frick is this? You don't want return customers? So you stagger it, you stagger the good stuff.
Yeah, stagger the good stuff. When you said chocolate cake, I wanted to make a Mr. Ratburn reference. Did somebody say cake? But I knew you wouldn't get it. But for all the
Yeah.
podcast listeners, I made that reference.
Could I, you know what? I'll ask you afterwards. Oh man. So what else is there? There's Spawn. Just really quick, I want to get into Spawn. Freaking Spawn, man. Todd McFarlane, this guy who's worth like $50 million. Actually, I think he's worth more than I think he's worth like 300. I don't know what this guy's worth. You know what? What is Todd McFarlane worth? Todd McFarlane net worth. Boom. This mother fathead. No, that's why they give me Frank Miller. I didn't ask for Frank Miller. You bunch of morons. There we go. 300 million. Yep. He's worth $300 million. Man, this dude, he's talking about how he's got a 90-minute animated Spawn project ready to go. But except that he doesn't have the sound, and he doesn't have certain graphics, and he doesn't have the motion. So which means it's not actually ready to go. Like, but he's waiting for the movie to be made. But there's all these problems with the movie being made. It's like, dude, you're worth $300 million. Okay. Now, granted, your worth is not the same of how much disposable income you have on the spot, because we're talking about actually, like, is he going to sell his shares of Image Comics? Is he going to sell, all of his hot properties and stuff like that? No, he's not. So what you're worth is not what you can actually produce at the time. It's what you're worth, as far as a loan is concerned. So does he want to get a loan? But at the end of the day, like, I'm so tired of the freaking arguments and the conversations here with this nonsense. And that's all it is nonsense. I loves me some Todd McFarlane. He's a weird person, and I probably love him more for that. But like, this dude just needs to stop making excuses. Stop making a conversation about, oh, well, I could put out all of my characters and I can get the license for the DC characters and I could do all these, things, and they're making me millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he's like the cash money brothers. Is that what it was? Millions of dollars, millions of dollars, millions of dollars. I love that. Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the dude's just got to shut up or nut up. You know what I'm saying? Like, freaking get the damn movie made. And if these guys won't do it, go someplace else and do it. And you know where I think he should do it? I think he should go to Marvel. Oh, I said it.
Can he go there? They
Oh, I
wouldn't.
said it. I said I didn't even bring this up with you in the beginning of this. So literally, like, just this is like a lot of times what we'll do is we're just like, all right, so what do you want to talk about in the podcast? I'll talk about this. I don't want to talk about that, but hey, let's talk about this instead. Oh, let's definitely talk about that. Oh, I want to talk about that too. We'll do that, but we won't get into it. So we don't really
Yeah.
know what each other's thinking. I didn't even explain this. I didn't even go over what, I wanted to talk about with Chillmonger. He's just getting this right now.
I am taken aback, good sir. Sacre bleu. It's
Nice. Nice. So, yeah, in my opinion, I think that he needs to just stop this and just tell everybody we're going to have these problems. No more problems. Canceled. All of it just gets canceled. Done. And he goes to Marvel and he says, hey, Marvel, you remember back when you went bankrupt and you went and you contacted us and you were like, hey, man, how about for like a year, year and a half, you do all of our comics for us for Iron Man, for Fantastic Four, and for Captain America, and a bunch of these different characters. How about you do that for us? And we did it. And then afterwards, you took the characters back and did what you were going to do when you got your finances in order and actually did the bankruptcy and, relieved your debt. How about you do something similar for me? How about you do a deal like what you're doing with Sony, except a little bit better deal? All right. Well, let's make a Spawn movie together.
mm-hmm.
Okay, you're disagreeing. Cool, I love it. So let's make a Spawn movie together. And hey, who knows? Maybe you can have them mixed up with your characters for a movie or two. But we'll make my movie also, and just boom. This way, a Spawn movie actually gets out, mutual benefit. We make some serious buku dineros.
So the reason they are forced to do the Sony thing with Spider-Man is just because of a contract that was written back in year 2001, and they just so happened to play ball with them. But they're not in the mindset. Disney isn't in the mindset of playing with your characters, even if it'll help them by having Spawn in their films. It's not help that's needed right now, is it?
It's not.
I don't see it happening. That's why it'll never happen. They're
But
only
if
doing it with
Feige's in
Spider-Man and
charge,
Sony because it's Spider-Man.
and it's because Feige wants it.
Does Feige want Spawn? That's the question.
Well, yeah, that is the question. Because if Feige wants Spawn, if Feige thinks that is money, then he'll do it.
But I don't think the Disney would let it happen. They'd be like, "What are you trying to do?" No, Kevin, we don't do that. We own our own things.
Well, then what would happen? Then all of a sudden you got Feige, realizing, oh, so I'm really not in charge of this stuff, And obviously he knows his own limits.
He knows, his limits,
Yeah,
his
he
restrictions.
knows his limits.
And he's not going to jeopardize that Star Wars project that's coming.
I hear you. Now, honestly, I think, and again, if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. Whatever, it is what it is. But for me, I think this is a surefire way that if Marvel is willing to play ball, if Feige thinks that this is a good idea, even if it's not combined with the Marvel, fine, don't combine with the Marvel universe. You want us to make your movie for you? You want us to be the cinema that does it instead of Universal or instead of whatever, other, Paramount or whatever,
Lionsgate,
Lionsgate.
STX.
Oh my God. Yeah. If you want to come to the big dogs, you want to come to the MCU, you want to do that on our lots? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Todd. Say, yes, that's what I say. Make their own, expand further. It's freaking Disney. They don't have the space.
They don't have the space, but they don't want to make someone else better. They don't need to. You know what studio would take this opportunity? Sony. What they're trying to do with the Bloodshot, Valiant Comics shared connected universe, which is, I don't know if that's really going to happen. I'm not sure. Like the Bloodshot movie came out right when this pandemic hit, so it didn't make quite the box office it was supposed to. Did it even come out?
Yeah, it did. I own it. I still haven't watched it. I feel like such a schmuck. I still haven't watched the damn movie, and I own it on digital. But what do you call it? Oh, for crying out loud. What if they decide to have Spider-Man in the Bloodshot movie or in one of the Bloodshot universe, Valiant universe things, right?
What if that do it?
Yeah, but then what happens if all of a sudden Marvel says, "Oh, that's it. Now we're never going to work with you again"?
They wouldn't do that.
They wouldn't?
Because it means they wouldn't have Spider-Man in their universe.
Maybe that's something that they'd be okay with. If you do, I think we're both in agreement that if Marvel ever said, "I'm done with Spider-Man," that Spider-Man's stock is going down.
True.
Yeah.
Like that's a big hypothetical, which I don't think would happen.
Well, no, I do think it will. I do think that we're bound for something like that to happen because it almost happened. It wasn't until the fans were like, and Tom Holland, please, please, saying it almost happened. So
I just think that was aggressive negotiations, public negotiations.
no, aggressive. It was with a lightsaber. We're talking about Star Wars here, right?
There we go.
Why does my hair keep on doing this thing?
Star Wars
Falling on
update,
one
by the
side.
way. Leslie Headland has
Oh,
not
jeez.
made a statement addressing the Harvey Weinstein stuff, if you were expecting that.
Like I said, why would she?
Just because everyone was talking about it. That's all.
I don't think everybody was talking about it. We were talking about it.
We are everybody. That's a Lost reference, if anyone remembers. What's his name? Charlie? Not Penny's boat. Charlie Puth was his last name?
Wow. Woo, you're watching that go right over my head too.
He was in episode 9 of Star Wars. You know what's crazy about me? I don't call the films by their actual titled name. I'd rather just give them the number, episode 1, 2, 3, 4.
Me also. Because ever since the third one, or the third set of movies came out, the sequels, I guess they'd be considered. Yeah. The bad ones, sure. The really bad ones. I'm just like, there's too many goofy names for me to remember at this point. I can remember the original 3. I can remember the prequels, for the most part. But like, I can't remember the new ones.
And they used to be honest with their titles, but we got a movie called The Last Jedi where Rey tells everyone, I will not be the last Jedi, or Luke says that. And then we got one called Rise of Skywalker where a Skywalker didn't rise, one actually died.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well. Just some bad movies. Hey, as negative as I am with Star Wars, round of applause for Clone Wars. Round of applause for Mandalorian. Season 2 of Mandalorian is going to have Ahsoka Tano. Dave Filoni is still involved in Star Wars. We've got a lot of good things.
It's still coming out. The Mandalorian Season 2 is still scheduled to come out in the fall because even though everything is shut down, they're looking at it as, hey, listen, we're not going to tell you how, but we still got people working on post-production right now. Maybe there's just one person in there. Maybe there's social distancing. Don't know. Don't care. But at the end of the day, they're still working on post-production. So we're still going to get Season 2 in the fall.
So post-production just means guys on a computer.
Yeah, that's it. It's guys on the computer saying, oh, let's cut this scene and, oh, let's put in the special effects now for this, that, and the other thing. The dark saber and yeah.
So that could be done socially distancing.
Yeah.
Or not. I really don't care.
How rude. But yeah.
Guys, just go to the building.
Your opinion is to freaking, handcuff these people, shackle them to the walls, and say, we're going to pay you $1 million to keep you away from your family for months at a time. That was last week's conversation. Remember that?
Yeah, not quite like that. But if you're going to go and do a film project like, let's say, Spider-Man, which is scheduled, it's moved now, but at the time it was supposed to be starting to be filmed in July. I would say everyone who's working on the movie, come to the city where we're filming it. But before we begin filming for 2 weeks, you got to self-isolate so that we know you don't have it. We'll pay you for 2 weeks. People get paid for 2 weeks of training. People get paid for a lot of silly things. And this is going to make $1 billion. So take these measures, and I'm sure the people would be willing to do that. And boom, now you can go film your movie. There's a sense of camaraderie because while we're filming this movie, okay, we're all at work. But then when the sun goes down and it's time to go to bed or, just have social time, we're going to be with our cast mates. Not just a cast, but the whole film crew. And there's going to be a whole lot of conversations happening. It's like camp, and you're.
A lot of actors are prima donnas.
Yeah, so I hear.
Can you imagine some diva walking around, guy or a girl diva, just walking around and be like, okay, I'm going back to my trailer. I don't want anyone to bother me. Do not knock on my door. Like, we're going to kick this guy's out. We're going to give this guy's a blanket party. That's what we're going to do.
Man.
Yeah, probably wind up having murders on the set. Was that acting? I don't know, man. Special effects guys didn't come in, so
these guys are really good,
right? Is blood supply? I thought blood squirted higher than that. No, that's just in the movies. That's real.
God, they hit an artery.
Everybody hits an artery. Oh my God.
Remember when you asked me about my headcanon and how I got to have a headcanon segment every...
That's right. So are we doing the headcanon segment?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about the hair of one Aurora Monroe. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So we all know about that mohawk, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we all know about the countless of hairstyles. But anyone who knows black women and black women hair would know that the atmosphere can sometimes have an effect, or always have an effect,
Uh-huh.
on the nappiness.
Oh,
Straight out the shower is
this
a
is the
look.
thing that I was talking. Okay, nappy's not something that I want to say. My wife always shoot. What's the word that she always says?
Kinky?
Kinky. She always says kinky. Yeah, it gets kinky. So
I'm not sure what's racially offensive or what's right and wrong, so I'm gonna go with nappy and kinky. And if you're offended, you're a snowflake. Um,
wow.
if
Do you want to acknowledge who you are or no?
I have no issues with any hate mail or anything that
Okay.
I will receive from saying something like that. But the hair will be frizzy. There's another one. Um, Storm has control of the weather, of all of the elements.
Nah,
Storm, Aurora Monroe, actually, this Omega level mutant has a
she's got a mega level.
spherical atmosphere surrounding her hair to enhance or to work in the benefit of the hairstyle in which she is rocking, which is
Yeah.
why you see all these different designs and these artists go crazy drawing her hair. And it's possible because the hair comes first for this mutant. How you feel about that one?
So anyway, this came from my live stream conversation that I had today, earlier today, the filming of this, where I talked about how, yeah, man, freaking, I heard my kids. I was working in here in my room, my office, my 5x5 office, and had the door closed, but I still heard through my headphones and everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my children, my spawn, my offspring are watching the X-Men on Disney Plus. So I go, I'm like, hey, give them the hugs. What's up, guys? I'm just
The
hanging out with them.
children of the atom.
Damn right. So wait, you don't like the Children of the Atom? Anyway, I'm joking. You're talking about the comic book. Anyway, so yeah, they were watching this, and I'm sitting down like, "What's up, guys?" And my wife, who is black, she is African, she says flat out, "Okay, I don't like Storm." I'm like, "Wait, whoa, 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 what now?" She's like, "I don't know if it's different in the comic books or not, but here in this cartoon, she talks with an air of an air of regality, like European regality. She's got straight white hair. She's got blue eyes. Like, she's Kenyan. There are Kenyans with blue eyes. She's like, yeah, I know. What do you call? She's from not too far from Kenya. What do you call it? And she's just like, like this is just too ridiculous. She's a white girl with a tan. That's who Storm is in this cartoon. She's a white girl with a tan. I'm like, wow, that's messed up. But okay, fine. I think what ground do I have to argue with that? And I was even making the joke because, like, when you think about when we were in the Discord earlier, Discord guys, Discord, I was making the comment, yeah, I mean, like, wouldn't her hair get, all sorts of frizzy and all that stuff if she's controlling the weather? So your comment about her controlling the atmosphere around it, yes, because this just goes into the idea, like, almost every guy will talk about how women are more interested in the aesthetics and the look as opposed to um the utilitarian aspect of the world. Case in point, my wife will sometimes go out with this really nice jacket or cardigan or whatnot when it's cold outside, and it's like, you don't have something that's actually going to button or zip up to keep you warm. She's like, no, I know, but it looks good. I'm like, so you're going to risk being cold for the sake of, she's like, it's not that cold. I'm like, I've got a heavy jacket on and I was in the military. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can take the weather 100 times better than you, and I'm putting on a jacket. Meanwhile, you're going to be sitting there chilling, freezing, wearing your gloves and everything, but you want to look good. Like, what? Honestly, like, high heels. There is no good reason in the world for high heels. Let's just look. There's going to be some women who are going to be pissed off, but I want you to be honest with yourself. Think this thought to its logical conclusion. There is no good reason for high heels ever.
It shapes your body.
It also damages your feet irreparably.
Oh, so it's not a good reason.
It's been shown. It damages your feet, like your toes get squished, like the way that it messes with your knees, the way that you've got to balance yourself differently. Say it doesn't help your posture at all. Say, like, high heels are anathema to natural ways of walking.
Uh-huh.
There are people who walk heavy on their heels as opposed to trying to lean forward a little more when you walk, in order to lessen the damage to your ankles and your knees and your hips, which are our natural shock absorbers. And if we're not careful with how we walk, then it hurts all three of those areas I mentioned and goes to your spine, your lower back, which is not meant to be a natural shock absorber. It just absorbs the shock regardless, and you wind up getting injuries that way from freaking walking wrong, and high heels only exacerbate those problems to limitless, degrees. But, like this is the argument that a lot of men will make. And I even make those jokes, my peeps, with my wife, you know what I'm saying? That's an in-house thing. I make that joke with her all the time. But here we have it. You're arguing now that Storm, in the middle of combat with like the Juggernaut and Magneto and Apocalypse, and she's still just in the back of her mind thinking, but I got to keep my hair right.
Okay, while she is fighting, she's not maintaining the hair, but throughout the day, she can maintain the hair. When she's just doing nothing, she's like, let me just keep a little bit of frizz control up in here, because it doesn't go bad right away. Like, you got a good solid 2 hours or so before it starts looking like it's not going to be straight out of the salon, so she's not fighting Apocalypse and worrying about her hair at the same time. Things come first. It works. Headcanon.
That's right.
But that's a thing girls say, man.
Literally headcanon. No, I don't know, man. Anybody who's not black and who's dated, or at least like me, I'm for the most part white. Anybody who's dated a black girl, the idea, don't touch a black girl's hair. You know what I'm saying? Because like she put a lot of work into that hair. It's to look at, it's not to touch. You know what I'm saying? It's different if you're married. You can touch, but yeah, no. There's way too much work being put into that,
man.
You
can touch if you're married. Got it.
There you go. Taking on the notes. Good man. Good man.
And beauty is pain, so they say. I was getting my hair done, and that's what she was saying. Beauty is pain, and she's like yanking me, and I'm like, beauty is pain. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the saying. She kept repeating that too. Very strange.
Really? So just a quick little poof, like a donkey punch or something like that. Yeah. No, I hear you. So if you were to give her a donkey punch and be like, you're beautiful. Does it hurt? It's because you're beautiful. Oh man. But okay, so that was the headcanon segment that she uses some of her freaking powers, just a little tiny bit in reserve to keep her hair looking on fleek, right? Oh my god.
Yeah.
What was one of the other things? Oh, you know what? I want to talk about comic books coming to Walmart. Because that was something that we were talking about. So here's this thing. Allegiance Comics, Allegiance Arts and Entertainment. This is a Sidekick comic display. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, didn't feel great. Okay. Coming to about 70% of the Walmarts. I believe that's only in America. We have got 4 titles coming there. Nora Saga, The Futurists, Bass Reeves, or Bass Reeves. I think it's supposed to be Bass Reeves, whatever. And Red Rooster. These 4 comic books. And a bunch of people already know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's going to be 6 episodes per season of this comic book. And Mitch and Elizabeth Breitweiser are behind the comic book. And they're going to skip the comic book retailers and go straight to Walmart. Have you looked up these names while I was talking or no?
No.
These are Comic Skaters.
Okay.
So now I would like to point out the massive elephant dump of hypocrisy here. These are the guys who are always talking about, but retailers, right? And meanwhile, they're going to go to the biggest the second biggest, the former biggest, but I would say that right now Amazon is the biggest retail buster in the world, and after that would definitely be undeniably Walmart. They bust up small mom and pop businesses left and right.
Yeah, so they would go to them, and Comic Skaters don't go to Walmart?
It's not about that. It's about you're skipping comic book stores. First off, these were Indiegogo projects or Kickstarter projects and whatnot. And rather than fulfilling the orders of the people, because if you go and look at these old Kickstarters and whatnot, you can see that people are complaining big time. Like, dude, where's my comics? I supported your freaking thing. Ethan Van Sciver got on there and he was like, support Red Rooster, like of all things, like support Red Rooster. You know what I'm saying? And like, bang. and these people haven't had their orders fulfilled yet. But they're going to take this money, and instead of fulfilling the orders first for the people who actually supported them and backed them, they're going to use that money over here, and they're going to go to Walmart and skip the local retailers, and they're going to go to Walmart instead. So here are first print comic books going to Walmart, and they're going to be on the shelves as impulse items. So right on when you get online to
Yeah.
pay for your stuff, yeah, it's going to be right there. So you can buy these comic books, and the local comic book stores don't get anything from it.
I wonder what the audience even is for those comics to begin with.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know.
then there's the whole we're not even gonna help the local comic book store. And they're not helping their Kickstarter backers.
Yeah.
In what way do they tell themselves that we're doing the right thing?
Exactly. There is literally not one good bit of news about this at all, unless you're one of those die-hard. Because I would like to think that a lot of people who follow Comicsgate, as opposed to who claim to be comic skaters, the people who follow Comicsgate, I think, would like to be able to think for themselves. Usually like to, look at something honestly and know when they're being cheated, know when they're being scammed, and know when someone is just a user, you know? And when it gets worse because these guys, Elizabeth and Mitch, they've actually gotten really toxic with their own fans and saying, anybody who's got a problem with the way that we're doing business, you're just a bunch of knuckle draggers, you're a bunch of losers. It's like, dude, are you kidding me right now? This is how you're talking to your fans? Wow. Like, this is stuff that people are attacking Donny Cates for. I myself have been critical about Donny Cates, the way that he, and we were doing on Discord. I just did it here, last week or 2 weeks ago. I was talking about I'm not too happy with the way that Donny Cates is using Twitter. Like, dude, you need to grow up and maybe get off of Twitter because you really just don't understand what you're doing to the community. You got people who love your work who are going to boycott your work because you're being an a-hole right now. And he's not getting it. And here's people who are actually worse. And wow, man, like these guys, at the end of the day, unless you're just about Comicsgate, no matter what, hey, if we're being screwed, it's worth it as long as Comicsgate, is getting our agenda pushed forward. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if the local retailer is getting screwed, that's okay, as long as the Comicsgate agenda is being pushed forward. Hey, if whatever, if you're all about Comicsgate and you're completely selfless in this and just saying Comicsgate means so much to me that I'm willing to, for everybody except for these two people and their business partner, who's a marketer. It's the most baloney. What's the name of this freaking company? It's out of Alabama. What is the name of this damn company? These freaking morons. As a guy who worked in international marketing, I went to the website of these guys. Damn it. It's on here somewhere. I don't feel like getting too into it, but this guy's a business partner with them.
I'll provide
whatever.
music while you search.
No, I'm not gonna stop the porn music, please. At the end, like they've got a business partner who basically does insurance slash marketing advice. Basically, and the marketing advice that I see that they offer is basically, you can do it. Like, this is the guy from Waterboy, and all the Adam Sandler movies, the Rob Schneider guy, saying you can do it. Like, come on, man. This is just so dumb. These are just people who are in it completely for themselves, and they're potentially going to screw over everybody. But I don't think that this is going to sell, and I don't think that it should sell. I think that all of their money is being pushed to this. They're screwing over their Kickstarter people and whatnot. And honestly, I'm hoping this stuff isn't going to sell. I genuinely hope it's not. And even the arguments that they're making, hey, I think that Walmart's going to like this. I mean, like, who doesn't want these people to come in and see, regularly come monthly to a comic book, or excuse me, to instead of going to a comic book store, monthly go to Walmart to pick up their comic book, and maybe they pick up a soda or a candy bar also. Walmart does not give two rats squirts about a freaking little, soda or a freaking candy bar. You know what I'm saying? That's the stuff that you buy when you're also buying your $200 large screen TV. That's the stuff you buy when you get your groceries. Like they want that to be their add-ons. That's what see, and that's where it just shows that these morons don't have any clue as to the way that Walmart works. Walmart is not interested in something like a freaking impulse. That's the reason why Walmart is going to put them up on their impulse item wall. That's what it's called. That's when you go in the aisle and you see like the chocolate covered peanuts and the packs of gum and the lighters and maybe some garbage bags, like generic garbage bags and whatnot, the Walmart brand. When they have stuff like that there, that's the stuff that maybe you forgot or maybe you weren't interested in getting, but now that you're waiting in this line for a couple of minutes, you're like, you know, I think I could use a thing of Tic Tacs. You know, maybe I can use the local Globe magazine or the National Enquirer.
Or your
Maybe I'll get a
kid is
comic book.
tugging at you and your kid is asking you for that candy.
Yeah, that stupid little, because it happens to me all the time. Daddy, can we have a surprise egg? They're talking about the Kinder eggs. I'm like, shut up. I don't even like you that much. That's not really what I say. But sometimes I think it. You know, so realistically, I like them too much to give them that nasty chocolate, but you get the gist, right? Like nobody is going to come in specifically for the freaking comic book. That's something that you're going to grab on the way out if you're even interested. And they're $4.99. So they're more expensive. They're $1 more. And yet in the article, they argue that it's $1 less than your average comic book. I'm sorry. I can math. All right. I can math. And $3.99 and $4.99. I'm sorry, the $3.99 average comic book is not more expensive than the $4.99 comic book that they're trying to sell there. And that's American price mind you.
Maybe when they add up the pages, you get more bang for your buck. Maybe that's
Nope.
what they mean.
Nope. Still 20, 22, 24 pages, whatever. And it's all ad free, but it's still the same, pretty much the same pages worth of story. You know what I'm saying? So like when push comes to shove, there's nothing positive coming out of this. And even their marketing is just absolutely ridiculous. Nobody goes to Walmart for a comic book. Nobody goes to Walmart for anything on the impulse line. Nobody does that.
Well,
and Walmart doesn't think that you will do that either.
They could be the guys to change the game. But that's an interview I want to see. Would you ever interview the writer of that comic?
The writers, Mitch is an artist, and he does some inks and colors also, and he's actually done some pretty big work for Marvel too. And his wife Elizabeth, who's kind of hot, like dude, look up Elizabeth. She's a hottie, man. But she's done some color work in DC Comics before. I think specifically with Batman Rebirth. So like some of the Tom King stuff. So I mean, hey. But none of them are actually writers. So yeah, as far as the writers of it,
I meant the artist. Then would you interview the artists?
You're saying Mitch and what's her name? Maybe. I've seen the way that they talk to their fans and the way they talk to people, and they're really they're propagandists. They're literally they're scumbags. When push comes to shove, they're scumbags. Yeah, right. No. Just I wouldn't give them that time of day. I'm literally here to just talk about how ridiculous what they're doing actually is. Yeah, like DC already made the mistake of saying we're going to bypass comic book retailers and we're going to do some things over here. And mind you, there were I went back and I looked into it after our conversation last week. There are first appearances in the comic books. You know what I'm saying? They're first appearances. So you kind of have to get them if you're a collector or a speculator. And there's a huge problem with that. And that's one of the reasons why 50% of the comic book retailers are just like, yeah, I'm not interested in anything that DC is going to do outside of Diamond because we don't trust DC. And now look at what these jackasses are doing. As it stands, they screwed over their backers, every single one of them. They're screwing over the community. They're screwing over everyone and everything just simply because they're hoping they can make a couple bucks from it. I really genuinely hope that they go completely bankrupt because of this. They're going out of their way to do everything wrong, and they're either really stupid or they're just that dumb. or they really are that malicious. It's just, I don't know, man. I can't see people being that dumb as to say, yeah, because comic skaters are always talking about what Marvel and DC, especially Marvel, are doing damage to our local retailers. And this is the thing, like if you take the toxicity, the massive amount of toxicity out of comic skaters,
and what is
I can agree with so much of what they're saying, you know? But then you go in, when you go and you look at what Mitch and Elizabeth Breitweiser are doing, it's like, dude, do you not even get what these freaking comic skaters are saying? Like they're like the trash bin of people who want to associate themselves with freaking comic skate, and they're not even really comic. They're just scumbags. They're at the end of the day, this is literally the worst part of comic skate. The part about comic skate that I hate the most is the toxicity. These people are the toxicity. They're not the good aspect of what comic skate at least declares, at least proclaims.
Okay.
It's like there's nothing positive about what these guys are doing whatsoever. I usually don't hope for people to fail. I'm rooting for these people to fail.
Boom.
Rant.
Yeah. Mic
You
drop.
agree or disagree? Come on now.
I'm with you. I'm never with Comic Skate. They're a hate group that blends some of their hatred with real life issues. But the only reason you hate character X and Y and Z is because they happen to not be white guys. And I'm all about fighting white supremacy at every battlefield. Yeah, I'm with you.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, after a rant like that, I'm just like, I need a moment. I need to rezen myself. So what else do you have? Because I need to.
That was it.
Are you serious? That's it?
Yeah.
No.
Is
Didn't we?
Is there something I brought up that I
There
didn't
was
talk about?
something else. You wanted to talk about the because we were both when you said it, I smiled and you were like, okay, so you followed the story also. The MCM, the movie theater thing?
Splunk, right?
No. The movie theater thing with
AMC?
trolls.
AMC. Yeah, so Universal is saying to AMC that because you guys did Trolls and you made it available for video on demand,
Trolls 2 World Tour specifically.
that's the name of the film. And they said to them, we will no longer show your films in our theaters, which
Yeah.
is like a hardline stance. That's you having a backbone. That's you saying, I'm not going to be toiled with. I'll make an example of you so that all the other studios don't get the same ideas. And I want to commend them for doing that. Regal also did the same thing. And they told them the same old, same old. You guys cannot be doing video on demand releases and theatrical releases, at least not with us. And by doing that, that's the industry sticking up for themselves, which I'm always for. Which, we've always talked about wrestlers and union and all that stuff. And I'm like, just stick up for yourself and tell the guys who think they rule, you tell them no, and you'll get what you want. So that's what they're doing, and I want to applaud that.
Okay. Now let me clear up some of the fallacies with what you'd said. When you look into it, what do you call it? AMC, all these movie theaters, they actually agreed to it. See, there's a theatrical window, is what this is called. The retailers would love to just say, hey, or not the retailers, the people who make these movies would love to say, hey, here's the movie in the theaters, and here it is on video on demand, and here it is on DVD and VHS if people still do that, saying Betamax, say, hey, go back, here's reel to reel, saying like here's all these different ways to do it, buy it all. But they don't do that because they've got a deal with the movie theaters. Hey, you spend this much money in order to rent our movies, all right? And then you can make and most of that money goes to, I've worked in a movie theater before. Most of that money actually goes to the movie company. The movie theater makes most of their money, not off of the box office, but off of the popcorn. And that's why they say you can't bring your own food in there. Like, no, buy our popcorn, buy our drinks, buy our candies. And they're all overpriced, but that's the only way we can really make money. Most of that money, like 90% or so of that money, goes to the retailers. You buy a movie ticket, $1 that goes to these guys. Maybe you can get a little bit of extra money by buying an IMAX seat or a 3D or something like that. But most of that money goes to the main guys. So there's that theatrical window where it's exclusively there. If you want to see this movie, you have to see it here. Otherwise, you wait for it to come on digital. And then a week after that, because digital is still a fairly new market, then it'll go to DVD, and that's how you can get it. And then after that, that's when all of a sudden Netflix will do it, and blah blah blah. And so this way they can make money off of each market, and be good. So in this time of crisis, AMC and all the other movie theaters, the big chains, they said, hey, you want to release this in the theaters and in digital also, by all means. For this particular case, Sure, because it is a trying time and whatnot. So we understand. We're not going to get a bunch of people in theaters anyway. So sure, go ahead. They wound up making over more than well over $100 million off of this, and they were just like, "Holy crap! Look at how much money we made off of this." So they're saying, you know what? This was so good that we're probably going to do this again. And they said that without getting the agreement of the movie theaters. Now let's go. Now we have to go into the idea of AMC said this and Regal said this also. Hey, they're owned by the same people. They're owned by a huge Chinese company.
I
So
didn't know that was the case.
no,
I thought
no, that's fine.
I thought that they were owned by different places.
No worries. But so the American, mostly American, but also North America. There are some AMC theaters up here in Canada also. Bang, and then the Regal theaters are usually in Europe. You know, what I'm saying, and the Middle East. What do you call it? They finally got movie theaters going to, Saudi Arabia, which is like, yay! That's surprising. There were no movie theaters in Saudi Arabia when I was living in Saudi Arabia. Excuse me. So this one, it's literally just one company who was like, yeah, no, hardline stance. We're not going to do that anymore. This flex of power is something that the Chinese government has been doing for a long time. And if you're a big business company in China, you do have a lot of influence on and against you from the Chinese government. It's almost like a symbiotic relationship. They're all venom. They're all venom symbiotes. You know what I'm saying? So they were literally looking at this as, oh, you're going to cut us off. That's why they felt so confident in this. And this, again, this goes back to the TPP, saying Trans-Pacific Partnership and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This goes to the idea of we've given too much power to one country, and now they are able to make these flexes. They didn't sit there and say, hey, let's go to the negotiating table, or hey, how dare you, or hey, what's up? You look at Kevin Feige. We just talked about the Amy Pascal thing. He just kind of gave the look, and then behind closed doors, they were talking. No. At this point, we've given so much power to the Chinese government through the TPP that anything China related can simply say, oh, you want to say Taiwan? Banned. You don't get our money. Oh, you want to say, what do you go? So this podcast, because of what I just said, won't make it to China now, essentially, if they look into it. Oh, you want to say Tibet? Banned.
Hong Kong, Malaysia.
Right? Well, they're okay with Hong Kong. Okay. They just don't want democracy coming to Hong Kong. But
LeBron James, Houston Rockets,
right? All that good stuff. Like when push comes to shove, these are basically snowflakes in the biggest regard. We're going to erase things from history, and lots of countries have done. I think every major country on earth has done that. They've erased some part of their history. You know what I'm saying? But this is happening right here and now, live before our eyes. That these people are still alive. You know what I'm saying? The Dalai Lama, all this stuff. It's still alive. It's still active, and they're just like, screw you. You know what I'm saying? So when these guys are making this flex, they really feel like they have so much power. They can say, okay, you know what? We're not going to allow any more Universal movies to come to our movie theaters anymore. Bang. So now what? Why would they do something like that?
Because if you are going to work in the interest of your company and cut me out now, then I can see the future, and I can see a future where you go straight to VOD, straight to your customers, and you don't need us. So I'm not going to help you.
What was the response that Universal gave?
And then they changed their answer, and then they say, like, some of our films will be VOD and some of our films will be.
And we're sorry that they viewed our answer that way.
Right. They're full of it. We know, you and I both know, that Universal is looking to make the most money, and a ticket sold to your, VOD straight to your home, you pay that $20, and there's no middleman. That ticket's much more valuable than the whatever they would have made for Trolls in the theaters. So if they made 100 million, all of that 100 million comes to them, or if not all, maybe 90. And if they would have had a theatrical release of like $400 million, which is like good, they would have had to cut half of that to the theater. So that's only 200 million. If I could divide it even more.
There's no need.
Yeah,
there's no need.
But you get what I mean. Like, there's just more money. So this is just testing the waters and showing you like a family film.
Yes, it is.
And families would rather go to see the films at their homes instead of bringing their kids up to the movie theaters where you got to pay the concessions because mommy and daddy give me the candy that's on the shelves right here. Mommy and daddy give me a popcorn.
Yeah, yeah, all that.
So it works for kids movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. It would work for a lot of movies because at the end of the day, if you give people the choice of being at home or even going to a sports bar and seeing this, that, or the other thing, like case in point, look, as many people as who watch wrestling, even the pay-per-views, would you go to a movie theater to watch a pay-per-view?
I've done
Even if
that.
it's just WrestleMania.
Yeah, I've
Okay,
done it.
but is that something you would consistently do as opposed to, hey, same exact price, you can just get it at home. And you can have a watch party at your home and you don't have to pay concession stand prices and things like that.
I'm so pro movie theater and anti VOD that I'm the guy who's going to answer movie theater.
Awesome, awesome. But being honest, how many people would agree with you?
No, there's an audience for VOD, definitely. Oh yeah, there are people who prefer that. I'm all about that community, especially for something like wrestling. But even like a regular movie, let's use Marvel movies as an example. As much as I hate people who talk during movies, that opening weekend experience where you got all the fanboys making noise, which I'm not. I know it looks like I'm a fanboy of Marvel and all that stuff. I'm not the one who makes all that noise in the theater. Oh my god, look, it's Stan Lee. Let's all clap. That's not me. But that's special, and I know I can only get that one time and only in that community setting. So I'm all for the movie theaters for the things that they can offer: the 3D, the IMAX, the shaking chair, all this stuff. There's a video I posted earlier on Saturday, and I talk about things like this and how the Universal Studios is taking advantage of the theaters, and what the theaters need to do is cut out the middleman, which is the studios, and they got to produce their own films. All of them need to come together, drop a little bit of money. Now they own their own film, and this film will cater to the technology that they have at hand, which, you know, as cool as all these big movies are, Star Wars and all that, I think Star Wars takes advantage of the sound for sure. But as far as the shaking chair and the air blasts that go in your face and the smells, movies don't really consider the screen X's and all that stuff. Now you got to get these theaters to actually make it so that you want to see this film in your theater, because the experience cannot be replicated at home, no matter how big your 70 inches screen TV is.
I agree. I can agree. But that's not with most movies. When you think about like chick flicks make a whole lot of money, and not because of the box offices. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of movies, because like at the end of the day, most of the people right now are thinking, yes, what you just said is true. But they also think that what I'm saying is true. The idea of waiting in those lines, getting the food, sitting on chairs where it's like, did somebody pee on this chair, fart on this chair, puke on this chair? This person is sitting. Yes. This other person is sitting too close to me. They're taking up both arms, like they're not giving me enough space. This person's really overweight. This person smells. You know what I'm saying? It's like the theater's crowded. I can't find my seat. At the end of the day, it's not a good experience. It's a terrible experience. And the idea is that movie theaters are not way past, but they're getting to that point where they're starting to seem like they're obsolete, right?
No,
Like,
I don't agree with that. I don't even think it's a terrible experience. I
okay,
know that there's improvements that could be made. It's an okay experience depending on, you know, what movie, what audience, and all that stuff. I think
you
it's
know,
okay.
one of the things I've noticed is that if you follow the porn industry, okay, this is going to sound really weird. The look on your face is perfect. You
After
follow the.
Spunk, I'm ready for anything.
Are you ready now?
Yeah.
Good, because here comes your full facial. If you got oh, for crying out loud, I just lost my train of thought now, you bastard. If you follow the porn industry, you can really see the way the technology is going. You know what I'm saying? Porn used to be in theaters. You used to be able to rent a trench coat and go to a movie theater. I don't know if you know this or not, and you'd go to a movie theater. That's how you would watch your porn. You know what I'm saying? And VHS and Betamax, all the home videos and stuff like that, that was not a big thing. Nobody cared. It was like, why do I want to leave the movie theater experience for this? You know, why would I want to go indoors where people are coughing and things like, as opposed to the comfort of my car in a drive-in movie theater? And then pretty soon it's like, yeah, it's easier, and it's like it's not so cold. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about, you know, touching this thing, and the sound quality is bad, and using my AM dial and whatnot. It's like, okay, fine, let's go over to, you know what I'm saying? But it's the idea, it's more nostalgia to stay with this as opposed to the new thing. And the porn industry was just like, yeah, dude, this is going the way of home video. People want to be in private and be able to do what they're doing. And the porn industry has taken off in a major way. They're getting their money shots all the time. I'm horrible with my puns, by going to home video. And one of the main reasons why the DVDs wound up taking big was because the porn industry was like DVDs and special features and interaction or interactive videos. One of the reasons why it became big or why the internet wound up becoming a big thing was because people were like, hey, the internet. Now people don't have to go to those stores and, walk into the back of the store, past the curtains and stuff like that to get their porn. And all of a sudden, hey, this is the Comic Book University After Dark segment, saying where you're walking past the curtains and it's like, here's all the toys and it's really dark. And here's the guy who's just looking at you with that most judgmental look in the world. What's this guy going to get? You know what I'm saying? And women sure as hell don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, now you can get it straight to your home.
How are films the dirty little secret, which you don't want? You actually want the opposite. You want the community. You want to go out on a date
I
at the
didn't
movie
compare
theater.
them with the dirty little secret. No, but there's a reason why there's such a thing as Netflix and chills. At the end of the day, like people recognize being able to go home or like, hey, you want to go out to a movie theater? That's great, but that's like
Mhm.
a one-time kind of thing, and only if that's the mood that you're in. Married couples, you know what I'm saying? They'd probably rather, and single people would probably rather just stay home. In general, there's always going to be that outlier who's interested in going to the movie theater, but we've seen that movie theaters are just people just aren't interested in it. It's something that we also have to look at with the comic book industry, dude. It's something that's been around for 80 years, and the people saying, "Oh, it'll never disappear." You couldn't be more wrong. It will disappear. It's guaranteed to disappear and go into some other medium. And if you're smart, you'll find some other way to get your comic books to people. But at the end of the day, you have to be smart enough to recognize comic books simply aren't the biggest deal in the world anymore. It's not just marketing.
It's this. The comic books will not disappear. There will be less people who buy physical issues. There will be less stores, but
That's
the
what I'm talking
audience.
about. Book. The fact that we would call it a digital book, it's
Yeah.
not a book, right?
Yeah, there
So,
will be more digital sales, but the actual paper
yes.
that you go and you get, or even if every single comic book store closes in the world,
Hmm.
we'll find a way. I'll find a way to get the paper issue from Marvel to me. It'll be a delivery service. It won't be the regular way, and that won't ever disappear. That's an extreme.
Have you
The
ever
way
bought a record album?
do they still make record albums? The answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
There you
You can
go.
go to vintage stores
So if
because
you
there's
want it,
some
you can get
people
it.
who are interested in getting like Zeppelin 4 or the White Album from the Beatles on there, but nobody's going to make a living off of selling, vintage albums. It's just not going to happen.
Except for the one person who produces vintage albums.
I hear you, but I mean, look, I'm saying, much like movie theater, maybe it's going to get to the point where there's like one movie theater in a 50-mile radius.
Wow, it's so weird because I'm so pro movie theater. I actually like the experience, and I think that there's
Mhm,
enough of me's out
mhm.
there where it's not going away. Not in the next 20 years at least. You think
Maybe,
20? Wow.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's the idea of looking to the future. We have to think about Tony Stark. You have to be a futurist because the people who stay with the olden stuff,
Hmm.
like at the end of the day, what I just said about vinyl records, it goes even double for freaking 8-track players. You know what I'm saying? And 8-tracks. If you've even heard of an 8-track, you can get them at a flea market. You know what I'm saying? Like, and audio cassettes, that's also where you get them at freaking flea markets. You know what I'm saying? It's even getting hard to sell DVDs at this point. Everything goes the way of the dodo for the new thing because
What do
there's
you
going to be a younger generation who doesn't have that nostalgia. They'll be like, oh, it's retro. That's cute. And then they move on to something else.
So what the movie theaters can do is emphasize what makes them them. And that would be the huge screen, which cannot be replicated at home. They got to take
Sure.
advantage of their advantages.
And the dinosaurs can talk about how they're so important to the community. And hey, if you get rid of all the mosquitoes, you change the ecosystem. It's like, yeah, but then we don't have mosquitoes anymore. And then if we don't have dinosaurs, we don't get people being eaten by Tyrannosaurus rexes.
I don't see how a meteorite extinguishing the
No,
dinosaurs has.
no, I'm not talking about the
Okay.
meteor. I'm saying in general. That's why I'm also using the mosquito aspect. If we get rid of mosquitoes, we change the ecosystem radically. But you know what people will say? But then I won't get bitten by mosquitoes anymore.
Okay, but I'm not arguing mosquitoes and dinosaurs and
But
ecosystems. I'm
I'm
arguing
putting it
about
all in relevance. It's analogous.
Yeah, but I'm comparing how music, the CD, the vinyl, the digital,
Mhm,
you're paying for the sound of the music. The movies, you're paying money for the movie, but seeing it on that big screen,
mhm.
that's a perk. That's something that's special. The way that it comes, the way that my USB sticks into my computer, which then I can download, that's all fine and dandy. Whether it's on an iPod, whether it's on a phone, whether it's okay. There are different ways you can get
That
the
sound of vinyl is genius. I love the sound of vinyl, that little in the background of vinyl. It's great. But at the end of the
that can
day,
be replicated in
yeah,
your see.
and more than that, the reason why, like Sony, I think I talked about this on this podcast before, I don't know, but I've talked about this before being in the
Uh-huh.
tech world. Sony had everything that they needed in order to be the first person to do iPods. You know what I'm saying? Or something to the effect of iPods. Okay. They had the music library. It's Sony. They have to this day, one of the biggest music libraries out there. They also had Walkmans. And all they had to do was make those Walkmans digital and have their music library pumped onto there through a pay service. Instead, Apple came along and they were like, hey, we've got all this technology. Now we need the library. We need to get a hold of the library. It took forever. And they're like, somebody's going to beat us to this. Ice-T was talking about this. Ice-T, the original, the OG, the original gangster, was talking about this before. I think it was on the Breakfast Club. But anyway, what do you call it? He was what do you call it? And who else did it? Zune, all these different companies. They tried to do it, but iPod was first. Apple was first doing this. How come Sony, who had the capability of doing this, didn't do that? It's because they were still beholden to the record companies, and the record companies saying, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You're going to bypass us? No, 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 son. Then we're going to boycott you." Exactly this nonsense. And look at what happened to Sony. Who uses Walkmans anymore? And what digital device to this day does Sony have to compete with the iPod's even gone by this time? It's just in your regular phone. But I mean, iTunes, and that's
Headphones. They
that's a
can compete
freaking
with headphones
headphone.
because the
Uh,
way
That
that we the way
that
that we get our music has changed. There's still people competing for the headphones. There's the Dre Beats by Dre. I think Raycon has his own thing. The
How often
wireless
do you buy
AirPod. Hold up.
headphones as opposed to how often do you buy music? At the end of the day, they missed out on a huge opportunity to
Yeah.
be the first digital supplier of
Yeah,
music.
but because the industries are so different, that this won't happen to the movie theaters. There's actually something that matters so much. It's the big screen. We disagree. Okay.
We definitely disagree. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to convince you otherwise, but I mean, like,
Comment
dude,
section. I understand what you're
yeah,
saying. I understand you
yeah,
can
comment
go,
section.
you can with the times, you can be late and you can, miss out on a thing and there goes your industry. But
How many
seeing a
shows
movie,
do you watch in a movie theater as opposed to how many shows you watch on Netflix?
I've never watched a TV show on a movie theater, no.
Bang.
But those are TV shows. If they were
It's
available,
not, I'm saying Netflix. Anything that you watch on Netflix as opposed to what you watch in the TV shows.
if I could watch a Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is going to be on Netflix or Disney Plus,
Mhm.
if I could see that in the theater every week, I'd see it in the theater every week.
You are definitely an outlier on this, and that's cool. I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm definitely talking to the wrong person in that regard, but it's cool to have a different opinion. But we definitely differ on our opinions. The way of the future is digital, and if people don't reconcile with that, then cool. So at the end of the day, anyway, for the original part of this conversation was that the Chinese run company, all right, the AMC and all that stuff, they're literally saying to them, they're literally saying, you know what, we're going to boycott you. Now, Universal, instead of saying like, hey, I need you to retract that statement, or make a public statement and say, hey, you know what, I can't believe they're talking about boycotting us because such and such and such. No, they put out an ultimatum. You only do that when you think that you've got a certain amount of power and you want to hurt somebody. Universal now has to take a step back and recognize, holy shoot, we now need to apologize. That's the big deal. That when you think the thought all the way to its logical conclusion, that is what AMC wants. They don't want a walk back of what they were saying. They want Universal Studios to say, oh, shoot, we are so sorry for what we did. We didn't mean it like that. we definitely overstepped our bounds. We really need our relationship with the theaters, blah, 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 blah. Because what does that do? Not only puts them in their place, it puts everybody else in their place also. It's that shock trooper treatment.
Mhm.
You humiliate someone so that nobody else dares to think, at least not in public, hey man, we might go digital too. They want everybody else to be like, oh shoot, we don't want that to happen to us.
Yeah, NBC is doing something, a streaming service called Peacock. NBC is owned by, I think it's Viacom, and I believe Viacom also owns which one is it? One of the studios. I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yeah, I know Showtime is a part of that. The Spike Network, all those. That's
Warner
the big problem.
Brothers.
There's really only a couple of studios out there.
Warner
Three.
Brothers is associated with HBO Max is their streaming service. Disney is the Disney Plus streaming service. It's not a secret that these guys are looking for cutting out the middleman, which would be the movie theater. They're doing Star Wars in the form of Mandalorian rather than going to the movie theaters. So it is a good move from the theaters. But what are you going to do after this? My answer would have been movies of your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Do something on your own. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Something to make it viable. Something. Marvel tried to do something like, oh yeah, go and see the what was it, the Inhumans, the first 2 episodes in Sony IMAX, and then go and see the rest of the episodes back home as they come out, weekly on ABC TV. Too bad it sucked. But if it didn't suck, maybe that would have been a thing. They were trying. They were really trying to make it so, hey, we're still going to work with the movie theaters. At the end of the day, though, I like, honestly, you just got to, look at it honestly. The movie theaters have had their time, and they still exist. They still exist. But these are the one of the 5 freaking meteors has already hit. There's 4 more coming. There's going to be massive volcanoes all over the place. Actually, no, 1 meteor and 5 volcanoes. Anyway,
well, if you make movie viewing an experience, an event, it won't go away. Let's not pretend like the highest grossing film of all time didn't just come out. We're not dying in the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. But no, I'm going to say dying. I'm going to say that it does recognize. Look, everybody else is realizing that there's so many other ways to bring the media to the people. That's what's happening. And if the movie theaters don't wake up, if they're going to start doing strong arm techniques with their mafia type tactics of, hey man, like they're the freaking triads, you know what I'm saying? Hey man, that's it. You're banned. Okay, cool. Maybe you're banned also, because maybe this could work both ways. Maybe Universal turns around and says, hey, you know what? Screw you then. We don't need you. We're going to go straight to home theater. And the only way that AMC can actually, and Regal can make this actually work, is if the Chinese government gets behind them, which they might, and say, we're not going to allow your, the streaming service. If you're going to put it through Netflix, we're not going to let the Netflix series into our TV show come into our thing. Just like they did with Hassan Minhaj, whatever his name is.
That would have been India, though.
No, that was Saudi Arabia did that.
Oh, the Patriot Act.
And yeah, I think India did an episode, also blocked an episode also. There were 2 different countries that blocked it. I remember Saudi Arabia was the first one. It was like, dude, are you kidding me? But anyway, yeah, there's going to be people who are going to be like, yeah, that can't be showed. Like they're going to go out of their way. These are strong arm tactics is what it is. Because at the end of the day, if you're selling to 5 different people, you know what I'm saying? Or you're buying from this guy to sell to a bunch of people, and you realize there's a better price over here, and you're thinking maybe this could work, and you're like, hey, maybe I want to transition. I'm going to keep on buying from you, but I'm also going to buy for this guy. I'm going to test this guy out. And if, hey, here's a chance for competition. This guy says, there's no competition. No, there's no competition. I'm going to stop selling to you, period. How much you trust this guy? All right, go ahead. You go and you hope that this stuff works. Go ahead and hope that this stuff works. And just in case it does work, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to cripple a couple of your people so they know don't buy from you.
That doesn't.
No,
happen.
That kind of is what does happen. Because if you've got the backing of a government behind you, suddenly there's a whole new ball game. And people really want to break into that Chinese audience because that's a lot of money coming in, dude. That's a whole lot of money coming in. So if China goes and says, hey, you know what? We're gonna ban your show. So Netflix, you're not allowed to show that show in our place. Disney, you're not allowed to do it. And Disney and Netflix, they'll jump. They'll be like, okay, done. And then all of a sudden, this guy's screwed. Universal screw. Hey, we don't want any Universal pictures being shown in China through Netflix or whatever. All of a sudden, now Netflix is in a ground. If it's just a company versus company, let's play this game. But if it's a country versus a company, yo, you don't want to play that game. So yeah, it's a strong arm technique. It's a bully. It's a mafia style technique. That's what it is.
Okay, it hasn't happened yet. These are ifs.
Actually, we're seeing the beginning of it right now. And hey, I
involved?
suggest everybody to follow along.
China got involved?
No, we're seeing that. Why do you make that? That's a strong arm technique.
Yeah.
That's a strong arm technique. What they just got finished saying. No negotiation. Just okay. You want to talk? Smack them down. Done. You either and they didn't even say beg me or come back. Maybe they'll say, "Oh, you want to beg? Cool," but I still say no. Who knows? Who knows? The idea is that now, what does Universal do? This has not even been an ultimatum. There's just been a cutoff. How do you argue with someone who just turns their back on you and walks away?
It's always been understood that you don't release something during its theatrical window available to the people at home, VOD or DVD.
And times change. And times change. And we've shown that the new technological.
If they break the rules, these are the consequences to your actions.
Break the rules. It's a handshake contract kind of thing. It's people thinking they can make a new bit of money. Hey, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? That's cool. But it's the idea somebody's thinking that this is a new way that we can make money.
Yeah.
And people are allowed to do that. And if somebody and AMC, they're allowed to turn around and say, hey, we're allowed to just say we're not going to do business with you anymore. But that is a strong arm technique as opposed to words that were simply said.
They're reacting to something. So I wouldn't even put.
They're reacting. They're not even saying, hey, you either walk that back or else. That would be an ultimatum. They didn't even do that.
They don't need to be nice and give them a warning. If I was
they don't
wrong.
Need to.
Huh?
They don't need to. You're right.
Yeah, they're having a backbone. I was wronged by Universal by them going the VOD route. This is the way I'm going to treat you.
But that was done with permission. It was agreed upon. It's already been acknowledged. AMC Regal Theaters already said, we gave permission. We agreed that they can release Trolls 2. But then they said that they're going to look into doing more videos like that. Literally, that's all that's being argued right now is that Universal said, hey, and we're going to look into doing more like that. And AMC was like, oh, you're done. Taking my ball, going home, slamming the door, locking it, done. That's
Great.
A strong arm technique. That we would call people like that snowflakes. So anyway, yeah, just moving past all that. We're about at the 2-hour mark. Anything else?
Yeah, no. There's nothing more for me to say at the 1 minute and 56, 38, 39. 40.
1 minute?
Sorry, 1 hour. What do you want to close with?
I'm the best and I'm always right. I had to pull the freaking Chillmonger move for a second. I had to pull it. I'm my favorite YouTuber.
YouTube me, baby. It's Chillmonger.
Definitely YouTube him. If we don't get this guy over 1,000 one of these days, I'm going to get 2 Chillmongers in here. That's what I'm going to do to you guys.
Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. That's a reference you won't get, but all my Naruto fans got it.
Oh my God. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, we're out of here. Professor Bill and Chillmonger, Comic Book University, class dismissed.